Okay, thank you for your questions and for being attentive all the way through. It's been, I think, quite an interesting day. I've left some time now for us to have some open discussion, if you have the energy. I know that when we run these events, it really is quite challenging because we're throwing a lot of different subject matter at you. It's new and different. It oftentimes takes a lot of time, or some time at least, to digest the subject matter and to really embrace what does that mean. So let me ask this question of you, and then we'll see how far we go. If there isn't a lot of interest or energy left, then we can wrap it up. But let me just ask, as you leave today, what are the ahas? What are your takeaways? What are the new things that are making you perhaps think differently? You came in here this morning at 8 o'clock with certain preconceived notions or the way you're thinking, understanding about in certain areas. Now, hopefully, we've rattled that. We've changed that a little bit. So my question to you is, what are those changes? I'll go first. Yeah, Samir.
Hi, it's Samir from Ryder. Couple of things. One was it changed my thinking around last mile logistics. I do product development and innovation at Ryder, and it's not something it wasn't top of mind for me, given, you're talking of parcel vans, you're talking of things which are not really in our space. We're not that kind of a player. We're not UPS or FedEx, but that's something which we can think differently now, differently about. And the second one was the concept of cool farming, the coins. It kind of reinforced some of the ideas I've had about how to go about this in a very large company like ours, how to go about doing innovation. And I guess organically it's transformed into that kind of a process with us. So where you have a group of 4 or 5 people, which are kind of the central points of where all the innovation is happening and how we're going about finding sponsors and pulling in more and more people around concepts. So it's kind of coalescing around it rather than somebody, crowdsourcing an idea all the way up to the top, because that's not working or cannot really easily work in a company like ours. So I appreciate that insight. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Samir. Somebody else? Oh, Christine.
I'm Christine from General Mills. One of the themes that I'm not sure was intentional, but I was just reflecting, I thought was threaded through a lot of the presentations, was around how the innovation, the breakthrough ideas, the disruptions they didn't come from the groups of people that you would have thought, or the initial question posed, whether that be the batteries or the coins or the megacities. And I thought that was really interesting, is that I think sometimes particularly within supply chain, you can get really set in kind of the way things are, but the threading of the different skills, experiences, backgrounds is really what can drive some of the breakthrough ideas.
Thanks, Christine. I thought that Professor Sadoway really captured that quite well when he articulated the intuitions that we all had about, who we would pick and the experience that we want, but he found that to be quite different. And I think that what Peter's talked about are some things that also challenge some of our preconceived notions, and I think we need to understand that and try to embrace that. It's easy to hear the story and say, okay, yeah, we can do that, but it's going to be another thing to challenge that intuition, that gut feel that says, no, I want to go with the people who have experience, as opposed to saying, no, let me try and go with inexperienced people. That's got to be a scary feeling.
I think you summarized that well, and one thing we're trying to figure out in our business, there can be a tendency to overvalue credentialed expertise, and it can be confining. And then when we talk about if we can get a rookie in charge or empower the margin, that all sounds great in theory, but I think what we're finding is, or what I'd be interested in learning more about is, especially like in the MOOC talk, there's this web of expertise. There's actually a bigger depth of expertise you tap into if you approach it as a rookie And you need that mentoring, you need that kind of expertise to be available to make that work. And so it's an interesting balance. You're kind of getting away from a couple of experts and then sort of enabling this more of a web type work collaboration method. And so I think I agree with you that the talks kind of all sort of brought that to life in different ways. And it'll be interesting to see how we can kind of turn that into a practical, into a different method.
Yeah. I'd like to say that we planned that. Ken and I put this together, but we didn't. But I think that perhaps it comes out naturally in the nature of the people whom we chose. We picked people who are doing innovative things, and they have, bucked against the tide, and shown that make a lot of progress and be successful in that. And so I think what we're seeing are some common themes among their own experiences. David, 1 second.
Thanks, Jim. David Schilling with Verisk Analytics. I think that one of the things that it was more of a reinforcing moment, but the discussion on cyber, I thought you look at it and think this is not something that any one company can solve on their own, or even an industry, or even a country. And I don't know quite how we get there, but the type of collaboration that ultimately will be necessary to not necessarily solve the problem, but properly address the problem, I think will create a network, some kind of I don't want to say global community, that sounds maybe a little grand, that will have a lot of value for other problems that need solving. But that's kind of seems like a huge challenge, but I can see that one of these days we'll get there, and it'll be pretty cool.
Maybe you can call it a coin.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, David. Yes. All right.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. This is Mario Roman from Genentech. I'm still chewing on a lot of what I learned today, so but just a very quick reflection is that a lot of innovation was presented to us today, and something that I saw embedded in every of the presentations, it was principle-based decisions and also the application of pragmatic concepts. So rather than innovation for the per se of innovation, basically innovation trying to bring some solutions that were meaningful not just to a few but to many. And then the framework to accomplish that through collaborative leadership, humble leadership, there was an underlying theme around leadership that had a lot of parallels to the challenges that we're faced on a day-to-day basis. So it's very interesting to me.
Somebody else want to add? All right, with that then I'll say thank you very much for your contributions. As you just pointed out, last contributor, I think we all need to chew on this a bit. There's an awful lot that, again, we shared with you today. And I think what's interesting about many of the comments that you just shared is that we're learning something not just from the individual presentations, but from the collection of them. And I think that's that's a good takeaway from our perspective. And maybe Ken, next year when we plan the next one, we can take credit for that. But we can't this time around, although we did create that. So let me say thank you to all of you for your devout attention throughout the day. And again, no, it's hard when we're throwing a lot of new material at you. I appreciate your taking the time out of your busy work days to come here with us. As you go out, there's a couple of colleagues. Nancy Martin will be one of them, and Eric Greiman will be another. If you want to say thank you to them, they are the folks behind the scenes that made this event carry off well, along as my colleague, Ken Cottrell, who did a lot of the work to pull this together. From the Center of Transportation and Logistics and our Supply Chain Exchange Program, we're very grateful that you've been here. Thank you very much. In about May, realistically May, we'll get a report out to you because my colleagues here will get a report to me in about 2 weeks, and it takes a little bit of time for us to digest that and then share that back with you. Some of you have asked for some of the materials from the presenters. If I get an approval from them, I will make those available to you. Expect that I might be able to do that, well, certainly by May, but sooner if I can. It depends on the presenters. As you heard some of them speak, that this is work that's in process, and so sometimes they would like to talk about the material, but they may not feel comfortable in actually distributing that until it's in a paper or it's ready to go. Along the same lines, we have videotaped the presentations. We have approval from most of the presenters, but not all. And so what we'll do with that content is we'll prepare that, we'll format that, and then we'll also make that available, again, subject to the approval of each of the presenters. But I think you'll be able to get most of those. I'm not sure about the processing time for that, but it won't be tomorrow, but it won't be 2016, okay? It'll be sometime in between now and then. My guess is it'll probably similarly be in the April or May timeframe before we make that available. Again, thanks very much for your time, and I wish you a safe journey home.